Welcome to the instruction video of our budget spreadsheet. In this video, I'll walk you through the step-by-step process of how to set up and customize this spreadsheet. The first tab you will find is the README tab. In the README tab, you'll find some helpful links, including the video tutorial you're currently watching, our tips and tricks and FAQ pages, and a link to our Etsy shop where you can send us a message if you have any questions after watching this video. You will also find quick instructions and some spreadsheet information. If you ever want to start over, you can click the New Template button to create a new copy of the original spreadsheet. Now let's go to the Start tab. At the top, you can check this little box to highlight all the fields in the spreadsheet that can be edited. We recommend doing this during setup to make sure you don't accidentally change any fields that shouldn't be changed. We've also protected all other fields that may contain some spreadsheet formulas, so if you try to edit a field that shouldn't be edited, you will see a warning appear. And if that happens, simply click Cancel to avoid any changes. The first thing you can do is change the currency symbol. The default is a $sign, but you can change it to any currency you want, and it will update everywhere in the spreadsheet. Now you'll need to add your family members. So whether you're budgeting as a couple or for the whole family, this spreadsheet works for both. And that's why we've included some extra fields to give you more flexibility. So let's say you're planning a budget with your partner, so we can add Emily and John, for example. In this field, you can add any remaining amount you may have in your account that you want to include in this budget. Then you need to fill in your categories for income, savings, expenses, bills, debts, and subscriptions. So for example, under income, you might have Emily's paycheck and John's paycheck, and a bonus, for example. Basically, you can enter any categories you want, and I would also like to note that for bills, there is an extra bills category by default, which you can use for one-time payments or irregular bills. Now I'm just going to quickly fill in the other categories to show you how it works. If you scroll down a bit, you will be able to set up your savings and debt. And when you enter information here, the savings and debt dashboard will automatically update based on these details. In this table, you will also see that the categories we previously entered have already been updated for us. Now, what you can do is for each of your savings, you can add a target amount, any amount you've already saved, and you can choose to have a fixed amount that you plan to save each month, or set a goal date by which you want to complete your goal. For example, let's say we have a goal of $20,000 for a wedding. We've already saved $7,000, and we'd like to reach this goal by the 1st of June, 2026. For a car, let's say we have a goal of $15,000, a starting amount of $5,000, and we plan to save $300 every month. It might be good to know that you can't set both monthly contribution and goal date for the same savings, because when you set a fixed monthly contribution, the spreadsheet will calculate how many months you need to save that amount to reach your savings goal. And if you set a goal date, the spreadsheet will calculate the exact amount you need to save for each month. Also, any of these columns is completely optional. So for example, let's say we've saved $5,000 for an emergency fund, but we don't have a specific goal and we save money whenever we can just leave all the other fields empty. Now scroll a little further down to the debt setup table. Begin by setting the start date, and let's say you would like to start in January 2025. Then choose between the debt snowball and debt avalanche payoff methods. After that, you'll need to add the starting balance, minimum monthly payment, and interest rate for each of your debts. Now I'm going to add some fictional amounts to show you how it works, but basically, these are just examples, and it will be more accurate when you add your debt information. When you're done, you'll see that the minimum monthly payment will be calculated for you. If you want to pay a little more towards your debt, you can add an additional amount in this field. For example, Let's say you want to pay an extra $200 on top of your minimum payment each month. And with that, we've finished setting up our savings and debt. Now let's go to the Accounts tab. This tab is useful for those who would like to keep track of different accounts and their balances. So if you'd like to use this tab, what you could do is enter the account names along with their starting balances. So let's say you have two checking accounts, one for Emily and one for John, a savings account, and for example, let's say you also have two credit cards. Now you can enter these balances. So for example, let's say you have $1,000 and $1,500 in these checking accounts and $5,000 in your savings account. And you owe $500 and $200 on these credit cards. And since you owe money, we'll add a minus in front of it because technically it's negative. So basically, when you start adding transactions in the Log tab, the totals will automatically update in the Total In and Total Out columns. So let's quickly go to the Log tab to see how it works. In this tab, you should log all your transactions. Simply enter the date, choose the transaction type, select a category, enter the amount, select the person who made the transaction, and you can also select the account used for that transaction. For example, let's say that on the 1st of January, Emily received a paycheck of $2,000, and that money was received into her checking account. Now, if we go to that account section, you can see that $2,000 has been added, and the current balance has been updated to $3,000. So basically, any information we add to the Log tab gets added to all of these other tabs, including the Accounts and Household tabs, the Annual and Monthly tabs, and the Savings and Debt tabs. And you can also make any adjustments that you need in the Adjustments table. For example, let's say that on the 1st of January, Emily took some money from the savings account and put it into her checking account, and let's say it was $500. And you'll see this adjustment as plus $500 for the checking account and minus $500 for the savings account. So basically, any transactions that you make between accounts, you can add them to this table, and you'll see those adjustments in this plus or minus column. You'll also be able to see your total balance and how it's distributed across different accounts. Now let's go to the Budget tabs. And as you can see, there are 12 budget tabs, one for each month of the year. And basically, you can start on any month and any year. You just have to change it in this first tab, and then it will show you 11 consecutive months after that. So for example, if we start in January, you'll see that the other tabs will adjust to show the following months accordingly. Now, as you can see, the categories we entered on the Start tab have been updated in each budget tab. And the next step is to fill in the planned amounts for each category. So for example, let's say you both expect to receive a paycheck of $2,000, and you can also expect a bonus of $500. Now you should basically distribute this income across savings, expenses, bills, debts, and subscriptions. Here you can see that we currently have $4,500 available for budgeting. And if we add some amounts for expenses, for example, you will see that the amount left for budgeting will start to decrease. You can allocate all of your income to these categories and end up with zero. Or you can leave some funds for the next month if you'd like. Now I'll quickly fill in these budget amounts for the remaining categories. Finally, you can add due dates for bills, debts, and subscriptions, and they will automatically appear in the calendar. You don't have to enter them in order because they'll be automatically sorted for you. Now, it might be good to know that we've linked all the other budget tabs with the first tab, so these planned amounts and due dates that you entered on the first tab will be automatically pre-filled in all the other tabs, and you can freely adjust them for each subsequent month if needed. We've also included a rollover option, so if you want to use leftover money from the previous month, you can just check this little box. And of course, since this is the first month we're budgeting, it will show the starting balance that you entered in the Start tab, but for the next month, you'll see that it will show the exact amount left from the previous month. You can also add a budget amount if you think you'll have some money left over each month. The actual amounts update automatically based on transactions from the Log tab. For example, the actual amount for Emily's paycheck has been updated because we previously entered that transaction. Now let's go to the Log tab to add a few more transactions and see how it works. Now, if we go to the Budget tab, you can see that the actual sections and charts have been updated. Here you can see how much money you have left to budget and spend, as well as your total income and spending for the month. You can see how your balance has changed throughout the month, and you can compare your planned and actual amounts. You will also be able to see the distribution of your income by different categories and the distribution of your spending on savings, expenses, bills, debts, and subscriptions. In addition, you can see your top 10 spending categories. Now let's go to the Calendar tab. As you can see, the bills are already shown on the calendar based on the due dates we entered on the Budget tab. Also, these bills will be sorted in chronological order for you, and basically all you have to do is update the month and year here at the top, and during that month when you pay your bills, you can simply check these boxes, and you'll see that the paid bills will be highlighted so you can easily see what's been paid. Now you can also choose whether the week starts on Sunday or Monday. You can add your pay days. So for example, Emily's paycheck might be on the 1st of the month, and John's paycheck could be on the 7th. And you'll see that these paydays also appear on the calendar. We also recommend creating a template for the Calendar tab, because this way you won't have to uncheck these boxes for each new month. And it would also be a good idea to leave these extra bills empty for the template. And then for each new month, when you make a duplicate, you can just add specific extra bills that may appear in that month. So basically, to create a template, make sure these boxes are unchecked and you haven't put any extra bills in yet, and just right-click on the tab name and select Duplicate, and you can also rename the Calendar tab. Now, all you have to do is update the month, so let's say it's currently January 2025, and also you might have an additional bill for January. For example, it could be an annual bill that's due on the 5th, and you'll see the annual bill appear on the calendar. So when paying bills, simply check these little boxes, and the calendar will automatically update, highlighting the paid bills. For each new month, simply delete the Completed Calendar tab and duplicate the template for the next month. Now let's go to the Household tab. This tab works completely automatically for you, and you don't need to enter any additional information. So basically, in this table, you'll be able to see the totals for each family member across these categories. You can compare the total income versus spending for the entire year. And you can also compare income month by month, savings month by month, and so on. In addition, you'll be able to see who earned the most money, spent the least, and saved the most. So again, everything on this tab automatically updates based on transactions from the Log tab. Now let's go to the Annual Dashboard tab. So these two annual tabs work completely automatically for you. They will update based on the transactions from the Log tab, and basically in this tab you can see a detailed overview of your finances throughout the year. So in this table you will be able to see the totals for each month across these categories. You'll also see the amount left to spend each month and the rollover, if you're using it. At the top, you'll find the total income, spending, savings, and how much debt you've paid for the entire year. And there are a bunch of different charts here, and basically these few charts are similar to the ones in the Budget tab, but these show data for the entire year instead of just a month. You'll also be able to see income month by month throughout the year, savings month by month, and so on. So basically, these 6 charts work exactly the same, and they will slowly update as you add transactions throughout the year. And additionally, on this chart, you can compare total income versus spending for each month of the year. In the Annual Totals tab, you can see an overview for each of your categories, and basically, you'll be able to see the totals for each month across all your categories. You can also compare your total planned amount for the year with how much you actually received or spent in total for the year. Now, let's go to the Savings tab. And as you can see, all the information we entered in the Start tab has been updated here for us. And basically in this tab, you don't need to enter any additional information. The entire tab will automatically work for you, updating based on the savings transactions from the Log tab. In this table, you can see all your savings goals, and for each of them you will see how much you've saved in total, how much you need to save this month, how much you've saved for the current month, how much is left to save, and how many months are left until you reach the goal. And if you haven't set a monthly contribution or goal date on the Start tab, it will show ongoing for that specific fund. You'll also see your progress, or basically the percentage of the goal that's been saved. Additionally, you can compare your saved amounts and your goal amounts for each of your savings. You can see the percentage of your total savings goal that's been saved. You can see your overall savings goal, how much you've saved in total, how much is left to save, and the amount you plan to use for savings this month. Now let's go to the Debt tab. So on the Debt tab, you will see that your debts are already updated for you, and all you need to do is update the month and year to show the correct information. And basically, your debts will be sorted based on the payoff method you've chosen. And for each debt, you'll see the payments and balances for each month until they're fully paid off. You'll also see the projected payoff dates and the percentage that's been repaid for each of your debts. And basically, once you've paid off one of your debts, its minimum payment, along with any extra amount, will be applied to the next debt, continuing until all debts are paid off. And what you can also see is that on the left side, you will find an overview where you can see all the information you need for each of your debts for the selected month. This way, you don't have to scroll through the whole overview to find those payments. So for example, for credit card number 1, we have to pay $270 this month, and your balance will be $4,750 at the end of the month once we've paid that $270. Then, you'll be able to see how much you've actually paid this month. For example, we've already paid $100 toward that credit card, which we entered earlier in the Log tab. And it might be good to know that you can pay more than the expected amount toward your debt. So for example, if we pay $300 for the credit card this month, that amount will replace the expected $270, and all the other calculations after that have been updated for us. Now, if you know in advance that you will receive a bonus next month and want to use it to pay more towards your debt, what you can do is also add it to this plus or minus section. So for example, let's say you want to put an extra $300 toward your debt in February, and you'll see that the payment on that first debt will increase as a result. Similarly, if you want to reduce your payment for a specific month, just enter a negative amount, but be careful not to reduce it below the minimum payment. Additionally, in this tab, you can see the estimated date when all debts will be paid off and how many months are left until that date. You'll be able to see the percentage of your total debt that's been repaid. You'll also see the total amount of your debt that's been repaid, your initial debt balance, your debt balance at the end of the month, the total monthly payment, which is the minimum payment plus any monthly extra, and the total interest for the current month. When the month ends, simply select the next month, and your overview will update, and the row for the previous month will be crossed out. Now let's go to the Net Worth tab. We've also included this tab for those who would like to keep track of their net worth. This tab is completely separate from the other tabs, and you'll need to manually enter your information each month to calculate your net worth. So just like with the Budget tab, you can start on any month of the year, and it will show 11 consecutive months after that. Optionally, you can also set a net worth goal that you would like to achieve by the end of the year. So now what you can do is add your assets and liabilities, as well as their starting values. We've added some headers here, but you can change them to whatever works best for you. So for example, under cash and bank accounts, you might have a checking account and a savings account with balances of $3,000 and $5,000. And basically what you can do is at the end of each month, you just update these values. So for example, at the end of January, you might have $3,500 and $6,000, and you'll be able to see the growth on the right side, which is calculated as the last updated value minus the starting value. The same goes for liabilities. So for example, you might have 2 credit cards where you owe $500 and $800. And let's say at the end of January, you reduce these debts by $100 each. And now you will be able to see the growth. And since you owe money, the growth will technically be negative. And now when you scroll to the top, you can see that net worth will be calculated as your assets minus liabilities. And basically, all you have to do is just update these values each month to recalculate your net worth. In addition, you can see your total net worth, assets, liabilities, and growth, and you can also see the remaining amount to reach your goal. Lastly, you'll be able to see your net worth month by month, as well as the distribution of your assets and liabilities across different categories. And that is basically how this spreadsheet works. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for watching and have a great time.